Today we're going to talk about protecting and developing your personal brand. And your personal brand is how you appear to the world online. It serves to reason that a strong brand is preferable to one that's unpolished and uninteresting. Once people know who you are and begin to identify you with a specific area of understanding or expertise, then you'll be well on your way to becoming the go-to person for your niche or industry. The question is, how do you become more recognized? How do you build your authority and your following? And for social media professionals, my question is always this. If you can't do this for yourself, why would anyone trust you to do this for a brand? Branding is simply the process of creating a meaning system. We typically think of it in terms of selling products. What is it that makes a product unique in the marketplace, unlike anyone else's? So now that we understand what a brand is, what's a personal brand? Well, it isn't just for people like Paris Hilton or Britney Spears. It's a process by which we market ourselves to other people. Well, why bother with a personal brand? According to John Patankia, a contributing author for a blog called I Am Unemployed, here are his top 10 reasons for why you should care about your personal brand. First, he says opportunities have a way of finding you. It's hard enough to go out and find an opportunity. You certainly don't want to have to pass up on any opportunities for a job to find you. And you'll have an audience that'll validate your opinions and expand your horizons. Part of establishing a personal brand is creating a professional network and demonstrating your expertise to your network. Your credibility soars. The more people begin to understand your brand, the more they value your opinion. Search engines become your friends. Your personal brand is usually built through numerous online sites like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, blogs. These pages are shown on the search engines and people see your name on a search query. They'll recognize your expertise. You can get promotions, and that usually means more money than you would normally receive. You'll be differentiated from your peers. Supervisors and others will take notice. You get a chance to shape your own brand. You don't want to let others cast your brand for you. And the more people you meet, the more relationships you strengthen, the more you'll grow as a network. And it feels great when your self-confidence actually skyrockets. A friendly network gives you something to fall back on if required. Your network is there if you need career advice, help finding a job, or just a friendly debate on an important topic. Now, in the law, we talk about the discovery process. That's where attorneys go around collecting all the information that they're going to need in their case. It's the same kind of concept with personal branding. You need to spend some time collecting information and doing some serious reflecting on who you are and what you're all about. It's not the girl in the sorority party pics or your obsession with a certain celebrity. I want you to take some time to answer a series of questions to help you get to the core of who you are. Number one, what would your fantasy or dream job be, or what are your career aspirations? Describe yourself in 3 words. What makes you unique? How are you unlike anybody else? What skills give you the sense of timelessness? And by that I mean you start working on something and before you know it, 2 hours have passed and it feels like 2 minutes. That's usually how you know that you're really into something you enjoy. And that usually happens, for example, when I write. And then what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered? Pause this lecture and take a few minutes to jot down your gut reactions to those questions. Write down what first comes to your mind. Once you've done that, I want you to sort of distill from at least some of those answers. From those answers, take what you've written about yourself and put it into about 2 or 3 sentences. Here's what I've done. I'm a mother, teacher, facilitator with a love for learning in my students. I'm a writer, creator, researcher, and foodie, and I revert to childlike behavior with my son. I also have a strong desire to instill the importance of ethical behavior in my students. Now, did this kind of illuminate and begin to define your personal brand? Some of you may struggle with this exercise, and that's okay. You may still be at that place in your lives where you still aren't quite sure sort of who you are and what you want to be and what you have to contribute to the world. This may be a statement that you create that changes in a few weeks or a few months. For others, it may remain static for a few years before you revisit it. But this is a place to start, and it's a place that you can refine, revisit, and once you get it to a place where you're comfortable, it can become your calling card for all the different sites that you have across the internet. Now, the next step is to answer these series of questions to figure out if you are a mega brand, a super brand, an up-and-coming brand, or a potential brand. Think about your short and long-term goals. And by short term, I mean, what do you want to accomplish in the next month to 3 months? Long term, what do you want to accomplish in the next year, 3 years, 5 years? Take some time to think about that. Do you know how your self-perceptions, how you think about yourself, differ from the perceptions of those around you, how other people think about you? When people introduce you, do they use all the same words to describe you? For example, when one person introduces you, do they say, "Hi, this is Holly. She's one of the most outgoing people I've ever met. She's the life of the party." When someone else introduces you, they say, "Hi, this is Holly. She's a little shy and reserved." Well, then you might have a brand conflict going on, and it might be something you need to think about. Who are you? And do you have a brand conflict that needs to be sorted out? Can you clearly describe and differentiate what makes you different from your classmates, your competitors, your colleagues? What is it that makes you really stand out? Can you clearly describe your target audience? Who are the people that really need to know about you so that you can achieve your goals? Who do you need to be targeting? Do you have an area of thought leadership or a specific point of view that you're known for? Now, consistency in your brand is really important. You don't want to portray the image of two different people on two different sites. You're confusing and muddling your brand. But you don't want your Twitter feed saying the same thing on Facebook and LinkedIn. That redundancy won't drive people to your posts and may not even be appropriate. For example, I used to not do status updates on LinkedIn. I had a pretty static profile that I would go in and occasionally update. My Facebook feed is generally geared more towards friends and family, and my message there is a little less formal. I have a different tone on Twitter. Your message might vary based on the site, and that's okay, but you do want the core of your brand to stay the same. Something else to keep in mind. Facebook really started with college students, but the older generations are finally adopting social media big time. Social networking for users who are 65 years old and older rose from 47% to 65% in just the space of 4 years. Communication among the generations is happening with much more frequency. 70% of parents who get on Facebook friend their children. So what does this mean for your personal brand? You really need to be aware of who's out there, of who your audience really is. If the audience and the content don't match, it could mean a very unhelpful and negative effect on your personal brand. So remember who's out there. One of the groups that's potentially out there that you may not be keeping in mind are employers. Employers are looking at your online personal brand. Now, Germany is one country who actually banned the use of social networks as background checks on employees. But here, that's hardly the case. CareerBuilder provided the statistic that 53% of hiring managers are actually using social media to find out more about potential employees. Another reason to make sure your personal brand is professional, consistent, and up to date. So once you're out there, you can't just expect things to take care of themselves. You have to monitor your online reputation. I'm always cautioning my students about their infamous party pics. Friends will tag them in these photos that a potential employer definitely does not want to see. Make sure you have your privacy settings set, but those won't always be foolproof. Someone always knows someone else who shows your photo to just the wrong person. Manage your reputation. Set up a Google alert on your own name so that when you're mentioned somewhere, you get an email telling you about it, and it might perhaps give you the opportunity to clean something up before too many people see it. Now, everyone's going to have an opinion about you. Some of them may not like you, and that's okay. It's not a popularity contest. It's not about being Mr. or Ms. Congeniality. It's about building relationships, relationships that are genuine and authentic. You can only do that by being you and not building a fake facade that you think people will like. Transparency and openness is key. Some of you may not be comfortable with that. I know my parents want nothing to do with Facebook, and they don't understand people who do. They don't want people to know every facet of their lives, and they think it's a grave invasion of privacy. The fact is, for many of us, building these social media connections is a vital part of our jobs. We can't ignore it. So it all comes down to communicating what sets you apart, what makes you unique, and the give and take of relationships. Some of you have been tasked with building brands in this world. How can you do that if you can't even manage your own? So once you've honed your personal branding statement, you've set up Google Alerts and a regular monitoring schedule, go a little deeper on your own personal research. Do a SWOT analysis on yourself. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Figure out what your strengths are and play up them. You are a really good writer, then you need to be blogging. If you have a flair for the concise and pithy and you like to share interesting information you found, then get on Twitter. If you're wanting to connect with other professionals, get on LinkedIn. Maybe you have the talent and skills to put together quick videos. You need to be using platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat to connect. Here's some more specific suggested micro strategies from a book called The Social Media Bible. Find 2 blogs in your area of expertise and follow them. Make comments and try to connect with the authors. Start your own blog to educate people about something you know a lot about. Get a Google Alert account for a competitor or a potential employer and track the news that goes out about them. Now, it's very probable that as you get comfortable with some of these tools and strategies, they'll infiltrate your professional space and the work that you will do for whatever organization that you're with. So it's not only going to help you, it will help your company or your professional enterprise. Now, the social media choices out there are just too numerous to name. You can't possibly do them all. It's like a washing machine. If you load it too full, you will get off balance. So strategically pick and choose what will work for you. And finally, don't forget about real-world relationships. Social media is a tool for building your personal brand and cultivating relationships, but it's no substitute for real-world relationships. You need both the real and virtual worlds to build your brand. It's not an either-or proposition. So do some more. Keep researching yourself. Define yourself based on what you find. Strategically select the right tools. Maintain it, monitor it, experiment, and keep connecting with the right people to get what you need. And here are some recommended readings and resources if you want more information on personal branding.